What's going on, guys? Ted from Immersion here, and this week, or today, I guess I should say, I have a special sort of, I guess we could call it a DM's Guild update. I guess technically it's a drive-through RPG spotlight, rather. But anyway, I wanted to talk about Slaughter at Splinterfang Gorge by Total Party Kill Games. So this is, I'll read you the description, and I do have a copy of this, so I will go over some of it, although I won't talk too much about it, because as you can see, it is for purchase. It is deeply discounted at the current price, but I don't want to reveal too much of it, because I don't want to dissuade you guys from buying it, so I will give you some snippets of stuff as we go through and talk a little bit about it. But anyway, the folks from Total Party Kill Games reached out to me to have me talk about this, so I wanted to go ahead and do that. So, here's a little descriptor here. Many years ago, a brutal bugbear chieftain united the goblinoid tribes of the Melara forest and nearly wiped out all traces of the elves there within. A stroke of chance fate turned the tide, and the dreaded bugbear warlord Spragnock was defeated. His loyal kin hid his body away in a sealed chamber, and the world forgot about Spragnock. Until now. Now his bloodline continues, and they have plans to resurrect their fallen great chieftain to bring ruin and revenge upon the elves that handed them their defeat decades past. The goblinoid tribes have once again been gathered, and their bloody revenge is imminent, except fate has yet once more placed new champions to stand in their way. They just don't realize it yet. Slaughter at Splinterfang Gorge is a challenging 70-page adventure for an average party level of 5, but suitable for 4 to 6 level characters. Encounters also include scaling advice to fully challenge more powerful characters. The adventure is also in dual stat format, fully suitable for either Pathfinder or 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. Moreover, the PDF product is in glorious full color with extensive bookmark and hyperlinking to the award-winning D20pfsrd.com website. So, that's the kind of spiel here on the website. You can see it's got 4.5 stars with 2 ratings. So I'm going to go through the beginning, give you guys a little bit of feedback and my thoughts on it overall. So it is, as it states, in a dual format, which means it is available for both. This one PDF will work for both Pathfinder and 5th edition. I have a couple of little issues on my end, just little nitpicky things, but we'll get to that as we go through. So, again, I'm only going to show some of this. At a point I may click out of this to just read about it, but, Slaughter at Splinterfang Gorge by William Tucker. Here we go, 5th edition compatible. Here's some credits and open game content. Here's how to get a hold of these guys. And you can see, which is something, to be completely honest, and maybe I'm just not doing PDFs right, but I've never seen things like this. Like, let's try this. So we click that, and it takes us right to, it's like a sort of, I'm in Firefox so that I can, have my OBS capture everything correctly. But as you saw, there are these really cool highlighted kind of hyperlinks throughout, which again is something that I'm not too familiar with, but they exist. And you can see you've got all your, again, this is in just the browser version, but you can check pages, and here's all your extensive bookmarks and things like that. So we'll close that. So I'm going to read you about the challenge rating up front, because I feel like that's important. This is by Total Party Kill Games. Keep that in mind. So it's set, as we said, for 4 to 6 level characters. A group of 4 to 6 players that includes a variety of characters will likely enjoy the most success on this sojourn. We recommend a party of APL 5. Again, that's not really a thing for 5th edition, but if you're more than 4 players, try 4th level. If less than 4 players, we suggest 6th level and possibly multi-class characters. Again, this seems like it's more geared towards Pathfinder in that respect, but it will still work for 5th edition. And they do like to point out that the names are names specific to this module, but you can easily slot this into your Pathfinder game, into your your Forgotten Realms game if you're doing 5th edition. Again, it could be any campaign setting. It doesn't have to be Forgotten Realms. That's just the stereotypical one that kind of Wizards of the Coast is focusing on. So, survival, a high survival skill and the ability to track is highly recommended. There is a lot of that. Yeah, and then again, we'll look a little bit at the first kind of a couple encounters. Each encounter does have full text to talk all about how to scale up the adventures to make them more difficult. I will also say, as a 5th edition player, which again is how I'm going to look at this, so if you're a Pathfinder guy asking about this, I'm not the guy to listen to. You can feel free to listen anyway, but if you're 5th edition and you're curious, I'll give you my feedback on all of this. It's great because you don't actually need anything but this module. Every single, and this is something that I feel like doesn't get done in a lot of other modules, official or otherwise, every single enemy that you are going to fight, whether it's a homebrew enemy or a per-the-book enemy, their stat blocks are contained within the module, and it's not like they're at the end of the module and you have to flip to the back. If you're fighting a goblin in Chapter 1, and it says you're going to fight 4 goblins, it says 4 goblins, here's the goblin stat block. If you're fighting goblins again 3 encounters later, those goblins are there yet again, so you have a reference as you're going through. If you're chronologically going through the book as encounters and things happen, you'll have what you need right there, rather than having to pull like a pre-written D&D campaign where you have to flip to the back of the book to look up the name and then flip back to the encounter to make sure you don't miss anything. I'll read you a little bit of the background here. We kind of got a very high level from the drive-thru RPG description, but 100 years ago, a powerful bugbear cleric named Spragnok did the near impossible. He united several bands of his monstrous kinsmen and almost wiped out the elven population of the Marlara forest. The ancient Timberland was a hotly contested region between the elves and goblinoids for scores of years. For a time, the elves were able to fool their enemies into fighting one another with magic and misdirection. But once Spragnok called together a war council of bugbear chieftains, then promptly slew them, he seized leadership of the gathered horde and turned the tide of the conflict. He and his acolyte priests started targeting their opposition, breaking the spirit of the Mylaran elves. Poison and disease were brought into play through traps and infiltration. The bodies of fallen elven warriors were harnessed by necromantic magic and thrown into the fray against their living kin. Spragnok and his army were winning, and the elves knew it. I'm going to stop there. You get the point. I don't want to ruin this for any players that may be watching this or future DMs. I'll let you guys go through that, so we're going to skip ahead a few pages. Okay, so where we have here. This is important. This is a little bit of background stuff. So, anything in black here, like you see like this, that is for Pathfinder players. Anything in red, like this, is for 5th edition players. So, there are 4 player hooks here to try to how would you get your party involved, other than just slotting it in. One thing I do like is the weather by day. This, as you can see, seems to be set up by about a 4-day encounter. That's not necessarily true. Obviously, players can derail things. But we have the weather descriptor, the high and low temperature, the wind speed, and the precipitation and the amount of precipitation. Something vastly overlooked in most pre-written campaigns. I feel like they leave it up to the DM, but this impacts the game, so they spell it out for you. And then here, notes about rain. This is specifics for Pathfinder, and 5e rain effects. Rain causes disadvantage on perception checks and survival checks related to tracking. So, let's check this. We've got a highlight here on Wisdom. Let's click that and see where it takes us. Now that, unfortunately, took us to the Pathfinder SRD for the 5th edition. So it seems like the hyperlinks, as we kind of talked about before, are keyed up to the Pathfinder SRD, not the 5th edition one. There is one, but, and I don't blame them. That's a lot of work to go through to do that. It also says it is laying waste compatible. Again, this is a Pathfinder thing, but if you see these S+2 or S-2 in red next to a stat block, that's again Pathfinder specific, but just keep that in mind. And again, there'll be 5th edition and Pathfinder separated out. So, again, I'm not going to read through all this, but you can see we have nice color maps here. 1 inch equals 12 miles. Here's kind of the overall layout of the forest. This is sort of the main kind of elven stronghold. Here's the tomb. This is sort of the bugbear chieftain camp here, and obviously this is where some goblins are at. We have the encounter level here, and then all of the text for you as the DM or GM to read is gathered here in these nice blue boxes. This is text for you to read out. And then you can see here, Northbourne winds are helping the outcries reach the party's ears. PCs who pass a DC 13, and then again the red is Dungeons and Dragons, so the black is Pathfinder. DC 23 or a DC 18 perception check can tell that the screams are humanoid in origin. Stop right there. A DC 18 perception check is pretty high for 4 to 6 level characters. If they're at 4th level, their proficiency bonus is only at 2. Depending on rolled stats, let's say they did have a 20. It's possible. They're looking at a 7, and if they're an expertise rogue, you're looking at an 11. But for your average party, you're probably going to have somewhere in the 5 to 7 range. So that's a fairly substantial perception check, starting at 18 as the first check of the game. But you can see as you move through, the DC reduces by 1 for every 10 feet. Again, full color art. More stuff for you to read. I'm not going to focus on that. But this is where I do want to talk about. This is the encounter stuff. So, Goblin Marauders here. Again, this is the same thing for both Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons. You're going to get the stat blocks everywhere, and you're going to get this scaling encounter. And here's that S2 minus 2, but that's Pathfinder. So we're going to skip down to D&D because that's what I'm focused on here. So Goblin Marauders, here's your stat block. All of this stuff, their Nimble Escape feature, Scimitar, Short Bows, scaling the encounter to make it for, this is for encounter level 4. To make this an encounter level 5, add a Goblin Squad Leader, which is here listed below. This is a challenge rating 1. These guys are challenge rating a quarter. He's got boosted AC. He's got a breastplate, more HP. His stats are slightly better. He's got proficiency in a couple of saving throws. He's got skills. And then you can go up here and you can see he's got multi-attack, scimitar, and short bow. And then we have this elf who they're going to rescue. Here she is, a little picture of her. And then here's the 5th edition stat block for her. Things that I would like to comment about is the Masterwork Composite Longbow is not a 5th edition item. As far as I can tell by looking through it, it is not spelled out exactly what that does. But I found I have a little bit of ingenuity from previous editions, so we're trying to figure this out. So, we're going to go that as a CR 1/4, as a 5th edition character, she has a proficiency bonus of 2, which is reflected in this longsword with her strength modifier of a +1. +2 makes that a +3, and her 1d8 here. So, Masterwork Composite Longbow. Her dexterity is a +2. Her so this should be, even though the longbow here, point of fact, this should be a D8 because it's a longbow, not a D6. At least for 5th edition anyway. This should be a D8. It says, unless it's supposed to be a short bow, which now I'm thinking it is because its range is listed as 8320, which is the range for a short bow, not a long bow. Is a +5 to hit. We already talked about how she should have a 2, and 2 is 4. The masterwork in these, whenever you see masterwork on one of these items, means it's giving them a +1 to their attack roll, which is this. And then the composite longbow, if I'm going from old school, means you add your strength bonus to the damage in addition to your dexterity bonus, or at least that's how that's working. So a +2 from the dexterity and a +1 strength is how you get a d6 +3 on the damage for this masterwork composite longbow. The only reason I say that is because there will be masterwork items coming up later throughout the adventure, and if your players loot the bodies and find these, you're going to have no idea what that means when you tell them they find a masterwork short sword or so on. So I just want to make sure that you guys are aware as how that works. I could be wrong, but that's how I interpret it, just based on the stats and kind of the way things are handled in previous editions. So, there you go. Again, this is another wonderful thing. Some adventures have this, but they went really extensive. If your players are asking this character questions, check this out. If asked what this place is, if asked what happened, if asked about herself, if asked about all these different things, like this is all text to answer the questions that your PCs may have. Again, more color art, ask more questions. And then here, these kind of gold colored little sidebars are the experience points that your players will get. So, this is a minor quest. Success, saving her from the goblins, and healing/curing her wounds and blindness. She gets 600, the players get 600 XP for rescuing her from the goblins, and for curing her wounds, 300 XP each. So this would be split. 40 free arrows per month for life if she's fully cured. And then I'm going to click out of that, so we're just going to have a black background while actually this I can show, because this I did want to show. And of course, as I click out of it, it removes it for whatever reason, because it's being stupid. So we're going to do this, and then the bottom. Okay, so random encounter tables, another thing that I'm a huge fan of. If you know anything about my games or the way I play, I love random encounter tables. One of my biggest pet peeves about Wizards of the Coast and official D&D stuff is the random encounter tables are done so weird. Sometimes they're a D20, and if you don't roll a 13 or above, nothing happens. Sometimes it's a D12 plus a D8, and then it's again some weird number like 14 or 16, and if you roll that high, then you have a random encounter. Much simpler here. It is every... I think it's every... for every 4 hours on the roll, roll a D6. If they roll a 1, they have a random encounter. Then you roll a D10, and then one of these things happens. Party camping overnight warrants only one roll on the table, provided the rest lasts less than 8 hours. A roll of a 10 during camping should count as a reroll unless the DM determines the party didn't check out the campsite thoroughly. And then again, it says there are 5th edition versions of some of these monsters which are Pathfinder specific, like the Garden Ooze here, which is a cool little creature, and the Goblin Dog, which is, again, a companion for goblins, which has a cool allergic reaction feature for non-goblinoids who touch or get near these dogs. Still pretty weak, but a cool little feature and a fun thing to throw into, obviously, in this campaign, or to transpose into a later campaign, or, add them later again on top of having played this. So now, I'm going to try to click out of this so I can scroll through a little bit. Again, there are a lot of cool custom PCs. The traps are all fully outlined. Let's see if this will come back. Probably won't. There we go. Camouflage Pit Trap, CR2, Mechanical Trap, Effects. Drop PCs next to a Goblin Dog. PCs must succeed a DC 20 Perception check to notice the pit trap or possibly fall. Falling characters must make a DC 15 Dexterity save or suffer 2d6 bludgeoning damage from the fall. Granted that they do not suffer any if they pass. And next to a Goblin Dog, which, as we've already talked about, can spur an allergic reaction. So, again, I don't want to talk too much about the actual storyline here. You kind of get the picture. I will tell you that a lot of these enemies I really, really like, because the Bugbear sort of chieftains, they all, and it's kind of mentioned a little bit at the beginning, they all have a very specific skill set to make them all seem individual and different, whether it's spellcasting, whether it's fighter levels, what have you. They are really unique, and it's... For someone who's played a lot of lower level D&D, you don't get a lot of variation in your hobgoblins, your bugbears, your regular goblins, and this does a great job of switching it up. Again, as I've said, my couple of nitpicky things, my one that I mentioned at the beginning was the masterwork weapons. As far as I can tell by looking through it, I didn't see any actual things spelling out what they were, and as those are not a 5th edition staple item, they're not... I mean, there's a lot of people homebrew masterwork items as a sort of little bit better, but not quite a magic item. I completely condone that. I do it myself, to be completely honest, but I think that needed to be like a caveat at the beginning. Again, the composite longbow could throw 5th edition new players a little bit for a loop, but that is, again, just a small complaint. Let's scroll down a little bit. Again, you saw the stuff about the scaling of the encounters. We've got Goblin Archers here. We've got, this is our Bugbear Barbarian. So again, you're going to have Rage for 5th edition and cool new mechanics for your Bugbears there. We've got a Bugbear Assassin. So we've got a Rogue there. We've got some Wargs that are Pretty unique to this. We've got a ranger, bugbear, and then again here at the bottom, this I think I can skip into, yes, without actually revealing too much. Here in the green, we have a milestone. Now this is just a flat up, not experience wise, level up. By now all the PCs should be 6 level or an APL, average party level, of 6. If they are not, consider including some more random encounters or a sidetrack, stuff to bump them up to 6 level. Again, here are some goblin archers, a masterwork shortbow. They have a plus, they do 1d6 plus 3 damage here from the dexterity. A 2, you can see here on their short sword, proficiency bonus of 2, plus the 3 is the 5. Here it's a 6 because the masterwork feature is providing that plus 1 to attack rolls. So, yeah, it kind of can, and again, increase the number of goblin archers to 6. There are 3 to bump the encounter level up to 8 if you so choose. So, I'm going to scroll down a little bit more because we're starting to get into the meaty part of the encounter, getting actually to the bugbear camp. But again, as I said, this is by total party kill games. This could be entirely lethal depending on how your players handle this. I would probably preface that up front and say, hey guys, this is a really fun encounter. I know I'm going to tell you it's bugbears and goblins up front. That probably doesn't sound too challenging, but trust me, it is. So when you play this module, whether it's a one-shot or part of a campaign or however you want to work it, just kind of maybe stress to them up front, hey guys, play smart, because this could go south pretty quick for you. Okay, so we're going to scroll through a little bit more. Kind of pop in real quick, show you one of the nice color maps we have here. Again, and then I do want to talk a little bit about loot, because I feel like the way everything is so nicely denoted in here, in red, in sidebars, in blue for written text, I feel like the loot and the treasure should have a little symbol themselves, so you are kind of drawn to it, because as it stands, I feel, you saw the kind of side quests, get you the kind of gold bar, and the milestone for the level up was green, but I feel like the loot is, I don't know, here I'll show you, I'll kind of jump in on this one. It's just bold kind of loot. All the 10 valuables are located. Inside are smoked goggles, thieves ring, masterwork manacles with barbs, 2 potions of cure light wounds, and 5 crystal barrels, 100 GP each, and some gold. Again, let's talk 5th edition. There's not a separate stat block for any of these, so for you guys out there that don't know, that's sort of my, not that this would be too difficult, I don't think, but again, a lot of people just started playing RPGs and started playing Dungeons and Dragons in 5th edition. A lot of this I can discern out. Smoked goggles, I don't really know what those are for, to be completely honest with you. I don't know as a DM and as a player, but it's not outlined, but I'm sure it is in the Pathfinder kind of player's handbook. Thieves ring, human-sized, but too small for the one character here. I'm assuming that's like a thieves ring from old editions, where it's essentially a ring that also you can use lockpicks, or there's lockpicks in the ring or something, and it can be used to make lockpick checks. Not outlined here. Masterwork manacles with barbs. As far as 5th edition goes, there are manacles in the player's handbook. There are not masterwork manacles or with barbs. Again, I'm sure we can just figure out and homebrew that they do damage to the person if they try to break out, because there's barbs, and they're masterwork, so they're probably harder to break out of. 2 potions of cure light wounds. This does not exist in cure light wounds. Potions technically don't exist in 5th edition. We have our healing potions, which are 2d4 plus 2, are our greater healing potions, 44 plus 4. You could rework these to be first level cure wound scrolls, which would be a d8, and I guess if the caster casting it had a 3 wisdom modifier or 3 spellcasting modifier, d8 plus 3. Again, like I said, these are not huge issues. I don't find them huge issues, but they're little nitpicky things that a 5th edition only player might be like, I don't know what this is, and there's no appendix to tell me about this. I could possibly, if any of these are, here we go, smoked goggles. We can click on that and see. What are smoked goggles? Because again, this is the Pathfinder SRD. These spectacles have lenses made of smoke glass that help protect against creatures with gaze attacks. You are always treated as averting your gaze when dealing with gaze attacks, and you gain a +8 circumstance bonus on saving throws against visual-based attacks. You have a -4 penalty on perception checks while wearing these goggles, and all opponents are treated as having concealment. Again, none of that terminology applies to 5th edition at all. So, like I said, the loot isn't really called out in, I like a nice loot bar that maybe is in green or, you know, I don't know, some color orange, just so that it draws your attention to it. And unfortunately, I do think it probably needs a 5th edition and a Pathfinder set of loot. Or just a little caveat at the end. For 5th edition, blah, 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 blah. The gold, the silver, the copper, that's fine. But again, smoked goggles. Does a thieves ring have a little... It doesn't. Thieves ring, smoked goggles, master manacles with barbs, and cure light wounds potions. Technically, they don't exist in 5th edition. You could just make it a potion that cures a D8 +3, but 2d4 +2 is around the same, or 44 +4. So, again, nitpicky, but I wanted to call it out because I don't want anybody going out and purchasing this and then yelling at me because of my review on it. So, we're going to move through a little bit more. Again, in gold, we have more of these kind of side quests, which are pretty cool. Again, there's really cool artwork, too. We'll just pop in real quick and look. Custom bugbear art all throughout. Really cool stuff. Here we got loot again. 8 bottles of wine, which is for money. Black iron keys open a chest. Loot here again. Got a book, some wine, spell book. Some clothes, a couple of gemstones, and some gold. That's fine, nothing crazy there. Collapsible bathtub. More clothes, more gemstones. So, again, now we're sort of towards the end of the campaign. I don't want to go too much into this, but there is an event that kind of happens. We saw that there was a tomb at the beginning, and there's round-by-round information of what happens, which is really cool. So rounds 1 all the way through till way high, probably more than would happen in a typical campaign or a typical playthrough, just because of the nature of the way D&D combat or Pathfinder combat works. But cool little things to make each round of combat unique and have something new happen to kind of build the intensity, potentially lead you to that total party kill, but keep the players on their toes the entire time. And we're scrolling down. And then again, just the art. So cool. Check that out. And more. Just so cool, this art. Do we have any more loot? Here we go. Animate dead spell. I think I'm reading that correctly. Some more gemstones. Now we're pretty much at the end of the adventure. I will also tell you that the final boss, I won't talk too much about him, but he has a cool, they call it an Ascension Mechanic, and it is different for both Pathfinder and 5th edition, where as time goes on and certain things happen through the campaign, the final boss ascends, as it were, and gets additional powers and powers up to become stronger and get more abilities. I think it's really cool. That's a neat mechanic. Yeah, and then there's options here for if the players succeed, if they fail, a conclusion, as well as potential hooks to move stuff further along. If you'd like to continue in this adventure space and potentially have future encounters, or you could probably just stop it altogether, but there's ways for potentially some people that might want revenge against the PCs, and ways to kind of build a cool overarching story. You could probably run a small mini campaign or a full-blown campaign just from this module, so that's really cool. The first appendix is Gods of the Bugbears, so because obviously there's a lot of bugbear information here, there is a ton of history, aspects, dogma, domains, all that good stuff. And then lastly, there are Relics of the Bugbears. These are specific magic items to this campaign. I will show you one because I don't want to spoil all this, but as you guys may know, magic items are some of my favorite things. So let's take a look at the Cloak of Blood-Matted Fur. This is an uncommon item that requires attunement. A heavy cloak made of the flayed skin and matted, blood-stained fur of a feared bugbear warlord. While you wear this cloak, you gain the following benefits. You have resistance to non-magical slashing damage, you have resistance to cold damage, and you can tolerate temperatures as low as minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit without any additional protection. That's just a really cool item. I like stuff like that. The other two items that are in here that are specific to the campaign are also cool just like that. And then lastly, again, another nitpicky thing, but it's part of the balance of 5th edition, so I get it. Appendix 3 is Power of the Bugbears. These are new feats. However, these are only for Pathfinder. There are no new feats for 5th edition. Yes, there really aren't technically, we don't have guidance really on how to do new feats. We got one Unearthed Arcana a few months back where they gave us some new playtest feats that were weapon specific and some new playtest feats that were tool and kind of tool proficiency specific. We do not really have any guidance on how to deal with other feats. There's a lot of people that put homebrew feats out there. The DM's Guild is chock full of them. But again, Bloodline of the Chieftains, Goblin Ambushed Teamwork feat, Harvest Trophy is an item creation feat, Talismonger, another item creation feat, Tripping Ambush, another feat, and then the Goblin Creeper Ranger archetype. Really cool because it's a requirement that you have to be a goblin, and it said Ranger archetype, but it's in black, unfortunately. That made me a little bit upset because Volo's Guide to Monsters came out for us 5th edition players, and Volo's Guide to Monsters allows us to make a goblin PC. And we have all sorts of new ranger stuff, so it would be really cool if that was a goblinoid ranger specific class that we could play in 5th edition, because we now have the ability to play a goblin character. Unfortunately, or bugbear characters for that matter. But unfortunately, that is not the case, so we're not able to. And that is the end of the document here. Then we have some OGL stuff, and then right here, Wardens of the Wild, a lore book of elves, available now. 216 pages of elven options for Pathfinder and 5th edition. Let's click this, and this will take us right here to Amazon, where we can buy this for $39.99. Wardens of the Wild is an RPG lore book of all things elven. Within these 216 pages are the details of the elves and their rich history, culture, and relations with other races, along with some excellent fiction. As a lore book, it is a compilation of vast amounts of new and exciting elven character options, all in one easy-to-reference source book. This title is compatible with both Pathfinder and 5th edition. The core elven subraces, High, Grey, Sylvan, have been redefined and reimagined. New elven subrace of Umbral Elves, a mysterious lost tribe of elves trapped on the plane of shadows only to return to find themselves unwanted. New elven subrace, Elflings, a mysterious breed of elf and myriad of other fey creatures. Half-elves reimagined with options for the various elf bloodlines. And elven craftsmanship is detailed, providing information on elven masterwork items, elven item qualities, and exotic elven equipment. As you can see here, it has 5 stars. It only has 2 reviews, though, as well, so if you guys did pick this up, it only came out back in April of 2016. If you pick this up and you like it, please throw reviews here on Amazon so other folks will be able to go in and comment on this. Let's check these customer reviews. Awesome, varied abilities, but nothing horrifically overpowered. This is a really good elf supplement. The variety of things you can use to customize your elven characters is staggering. You could have an entire party composed of elves and they would feel all quite different. The story and racial backgrounds details makes elves mysterious and deadly to the point they could feel more like outsiders or extraplanar beings. Elf lovers rejoice! This is one of the best supplements of this particular race. You kind of wish they gave the same treatment to the other standard fantasy races. So again, this is a hardcover book. You can see it here. That is why it is $39.99, or I'm sorry, a paperback book, but it is a physical print book that you can go ahead and pick up on Amazon. It is Prime shippable as well. And lastly, again, I will put the link in the description below to both Wardens of the Wild and Slaughter at Splinterfang Gorge if you would like to pick up a copy for yourself. If you do pick up a copy and you decide to leave a review and you enjoy it, or otherwise, make sure you just give them a heads up and tell them that it was the review over on Nerd Immersion that sent you their way. And lastly, we'll just check out these two little reviews here at the bottom on Drive-Thru RPG from Abraham Z. A darker take on goblinoids. This adventure is not for the faint of heart. You will see some of the darkest and most vile goblinoids and bugbears on this side of the multiverse. With dangerous wilderness encounters all over the place. Many goblin... maybe, if this loads. We'll see. And we're connecting. Maybe. Come on. Nope. Oh, well, we'll read what Jason L. said. This is a solid adventure with no ethically challenging bits, nothing to stop you from going full murder hobo. The bad guys here make no bones about being bad. Or, well, they do make bones, but they are tiny elven infant bones, and rather reinforces, etc. You can see these guys are clearly taken by this. It looks good from a quick glance, but will be a pain to print out. Is there a chance we could get a printer-friendly version without the border and background for us guys who prefer to read off-screen? And Brian B., this was back in November. Unfortunately, I don't believe that this is out. A printer-friendly version to come out. This was, again, commented back in November. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. It was a little bit different from our typical DM's Guild Spotlight stuff, but really cool content. Total Party Kill Games does have a bunch of other stuff. If we go ahead and click this, I believe they also have stuff on the DM's Guild website. I think they even made a Total Party Kill handbook. I think that might be them as well. So, you know what, why don't we just go check that real quick. So, you can see here on Drive-Thru RPG, several source books here created by the folks at Total Party Kill Games. We're going to go to the DM's Guild, and we're going to check over there, and then we'll kind of close out this review. So, let's just double check. I don't know why my internet's being so slow, but it is what it is. Total Party Kill. Games. Nope. I think they are on here as well, but I don't have any access to any of their content. So, if they are, and you guys know that they are, let's check 5th edition, maybe. So, search. Nope, doesn't look. I thought I saw it on here, but I did not. Well, anyway, if the folks from Total Party Kill Games are over there on the DM's Guild, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. But hope you guys enjoyed this review. Let me know what you think. Have you picked this up? Have you played it? Or you think you're going to do that? Or does the $9.99 price tag turn you off? I'll be completely honest. $10 for a module is a little bit much in my opinion. Granted, there was a lot of work put into this. It's a 70-something page document. It is in full color. It has custom items, custom enemies, and it is detailed to the finest degree. But there are several adventures here on the DM's Guild that are, as you can see here, this one's a 15th level adventure I just clicked through sort of by accident for $1.95. I don't know if I've ever actually seen anything on the DM's Guild around $10. Even some of the official Adventure League stuff runs you about $5 to $6. But that was both Pathfinder and D&D 5e compatible. Perhaps if they were separate documents, they'd probably be around the middle. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think. I will hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Be on the lookout for some more content coming soon, and I'll see you next time.